Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Spellbinder's BetterPress registration is a clever innovation that allows for multicolored designs. I have 3 cards and each one is going to illustrate a different technique. We'll be looking at letter pressing with, of course, the multicolored inks, but also heat embossing and hot foiling. And the best part, they're all easy. I'll be working with a beautiful new plate set called Blooming Garden from the BetterPress registration collection. This set includes 8 plates with 3 interchangeable sentiments. It also comes with the Mylar registration template. I'll be working with a paper copy today, which I'm going to be trimming down. Just in case the template ever gets misplaced, it is downloadable. Simply go to Spellbinder store and look in the description of the product. I'll start off with the pink card, which is a combination of hot foiling and multicolored design. I'll use Spellbinder's yellow tape to hold the template in place on the magnetic chase. The large leafy background will be hot foiled in gold, so all of the other elements are going to be done up in BetterPress ink. This card I'll be using a couple of colors from the newly released Jet Set ink set. I'm going to match up the outline of the 3 plates of the flowers with the outline on the registration template. The sentiment sending birthday wishes will be done up in the same color, so I'll get that plate in position as well. Everything that goes on the chase is mirror image, so keep that in mind when you're positioning your sentiments. I'll be applying a pretty pink ink called Taffy from the Jet Set BetterPress ink set. To get good ink coverage on the plates, I find it best to do a tapping motion followed by a little bit of a twist at the end. You can actually see how consistent the ink has been applied on the plates, so that is a good visual before you snap your platen on and then run it through the die cutter. Next, I'll get the large flowers lined up. They'll be inked with a soft aqua color called Cruise. And then on goes the platen with the metal corners snapping onto the platform with the spring-loaded magnetic feet. I love that the BetterPress ink works so well on lightly colored cardstock. Even though I've used low-tack tape to hold my panel in place, I'm still careful when I remove the tape. It has gone through the die cutter with lots of pressure applied, so without some care, it may tear the cardstock. I'm going to be hot foiling the leafy background. The gold foil is trimmed just slightly larger than the plate. On the plate, you can see the outline of the 2 small flowers, which are easily lined up to those that are on the panel. Another good reference point is the flat edge of the plate will sit on top of the sentiment. As the plate needs to be positioned on the design, I'm not able to build this sandwich onto the hot foil platform. I'll be using the hinge method. I'll use a couple of pieces of tape to hold the top of the plate to the cardstock. Because of the pressure that will be applied to this tape as it goes through the die cutter, it could damage the cardstock. First, take each piece of tape and place it on the sleeve of my shirt. Rubbing it on the material will help reduce some of the tackiness. So now to slip the foil in between the plate and the cardstock, and this is the part where sometimes I get confused. When building the sandwich directly onto the platform, of course the plate goes down first, so the foil is shiny side down. But in this case, when you're doing the hinge method and not doing it on the platform, the shiny side needs to be up against the hot foil plate. I'm just having a little peek to make sure that everything is aligned before I slip it off this platform. Have no idea why I built it on this. And then put it onto the hot foil system platform. Sandwich is placed plate side down onto the platform. The 2 shims are put on top, and then I hit the timer button. You can see it flashing, and I'll let it sit until that goes solid. The platform was already removed from the die cutter, and then I just take this platform and run it slowly through. And look at this super pretty result. Now on to the multicolored panel done just with the ink. This panel will be pale yellow, and I thought it would be pretty to have a dark leafy background, so I'm using an ink called Thunder from another new BetterPress ink set called Tropical. Although the sentiment is being done in the same color of ink, I was unable to put it on the platform at the same time as the leafy background because these two elements slightly overlap on the template. And I just tap, tap, tap with a little twisting motion at the end to get that inked up, and double check to make sure that it's aligned to the template, and then run it through the die cutter. For the flowers, I'll be going back to the inks found in the Jet Set ink set. These large flowers are being done in an ink called Garnet. And through the die cutter, and look how pretty that is. And now to get the three smaller flowers lined up on the template, and they'll be inked up with Tiger. And then after this goes through the die cutter, this panel will be complete. These multicolored designs are so easy to achieve with this registration system. There we go, in no time at all, another panel has been completed. And for the last one, I'll be heat embossing a dark plum panel. I'll use anti-static powder before each pressing. The leafy background will be done in black. I am not a fan of black embossing powder. It seems no matter how careful you are, you still get little black specks everywhere. So instead, I'll be applying BetterPress black ink. This is slow drying just like Versamark, and I'll have lots of time to apply clear embossing powder. For this method, because the panel is being removed from the plate tin after each pressing, it is important to get it very carefully lined up with those A2 registration marks. The look of black embossing powder without any of the mess. And now I can get my panel lined back up onto the plate tin, and I'll press this time the large flowers and the sentiment, inking them up with Versamark ink. I hope you notice that I applied the anti-static powder first, and the ink is applied the same way to the plates with a tapping motion with a little bit of a twist at the end. And this time, after it goes through the die cutter, I'll be covering both images with gold embossing powder. My heat tool has a stand, so through the entire process I leave it turned on. Because my heat tool is good and hot, I'm able to melt the powder quickly. This minimizes warping. Again, I make sure that as the panel goes back onto the plate that it's lined up with those A2 registration marks to do the final pressing. Find that when I'm inking up these smaller plates that they do move around a bit. They are easily moved back into position onto the template. I just about forgot the anti-static powder, so I'll quickly add that on, and then it'll go through the die cutter. And for a little bit of variation, I'll be switching out to silver embossing powder. I have just a handful of the colored embossing powders. It's definitely on my list to try this technique out with those powders on a white panel. I'll finish up by dusting off any of the anti-static powder residue with a microfiber cloth. All three panels are going to be trimmed down to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. I trim the excess off the sides. I go back and forth between the two, taking little bits off at a time to get the image centered. When trimming down the top and bottom of the card, I like to leave a little bit more space at the top between the image and the edge than I do at the bottom. All of the panels were adhered to black cardstock that measured 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Then onto A2 size top folding card bases. And that completes these BetterPress cards using heat embossing, hot foiling, and multicolored inks. No matter the technique, they're all quick and easy cards. Spellbinder's registration system is innovative and clever and certainly takes BetterPress to the next level of awesome. Blooming Garden is one of 2 plate sets in the registration collection. I absolutely love this design. It is gorgeous. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.